Oh, buddy, what'd you think? What'd you think? Come on. Yeah. All right, so old Ruger is jumping around here because he is loving the change of the season. You can see we've got a really nasty day here today, although it's supposed to clear up. And this video right here is gonna be, well, a video of many last for the year. It's always odd when we get to this time of year. You do it again in spring when you have the first of the year, but we're kind of starting to shut everything down today. We're gonna cover a lot of that in this episode. I got something I'm gonna show you toward the end of this video that I'm probably gonna get burnt for, but I am cheating on some oh so popular equipment, and I'm making a little bit of a change in my life towards some equipment. We'll talk about that later. All right, so whenever it comes to this time of year, one of the final things that we like to do is a full cut and cleanup of the property. We got a lot of thick field grasses that need to be taken care of, yard grasses. We need to do some weed eating. Like I said, we need to get pools and stuff put up. Summer's officially over. And one thing that I really need to do is change the blades out on both of our pieces of equipment. Tiffany's gonna get on the zero turn today and help me mow. I'm gonna use a tractor and knock down this thick, nasty pasture. Both of them have the wrong set of blades or dull blades on them. I've been mowing a lot of dove plot material with this, which is a lot of sand. These blades I've also been using all summer long. I want to take a look at them. If y'all remember, we hard faced one of these blades. This is a end of season comparison right here too. I've been very curious about that. As far as the zero turn goes, well, it's got a wrong set of blades for mowing grass on it, at least our type of grass. I've been using a specialty set for the dove plot, so we're gonna get those changed out. Plus, it's just so much easier on your equipment, healthier for the grass to use a sharp set of blades. All right, so if you can remember a while back, I actually took some hard facing welding rods and hard faced the front edge of this blade right here. And you can tell it was out because I welded a little dot on top. I was doing this out of curiosity and experiment to see if hard facing would hold a sharper edge longer. So after a full season of mowing, we can compare the two right now. This one is not hard faced, and I can clearly tell it's got a more rounded over edge. You see that? This one has a thinner edge and profile, so it did stay sharper longer, but I mean not by a significant amount. One thing worth noting, I have a chip out of the hard face blade right there. Looks like it happened a while back and then started rounding over from sand, and I was afraid of that. When you make metal so hard and you hit stuff, you can get chips, but that's a very small chip. But for sure, the hard face blade is definitely got less of a rounded over edge than this blade right here. So for those of y'all that were following that and curious, there is the final results after a lot, and I mean a lot of mowing. Do I see enough difference to justify bringing out the welder and hard facing blades? No, not offhand, I sure don't. So whenever it comes to these blades like this, hard to beat a good angle grinder with a very aggressive flap disc. I like flap discs because they don't tend to overheat the blade like one of the hard discs do. And this is cheap, convenient. Most people already have it. Works really well on a heavy duty blade like this. I don't know if you can see this, but one thing to be very careful about when you're putting these bolts back in is that little protrusion right there. It's got to slide up into a groove right here that's very easy to see. Don't tighten the bolt down without getting that protrusion into the groove. Now when it comes to the grasshopper, I have a completely different set of blades on here. In case you missed our last episode mowing with it, I have been mowing our dove food plots. And I put a set of contoured blades on here, which is a low profile blade designed for sandy situations, which is exactly how the dove field is. But they're not a high lift, cleaner cutting blade for things such as Bahia grass. And we don't have a lot of sand in the yard, so it makes sense to go back to a high profile or high lift blade. And it doesn't get any easier changing blades than with this setup. I just can't quit bragging on this enough. I used to dread changing blades like everybody else. It's not the case anymore. What you think, Ruger? So if you take a look in here, you can see these blades just don't have much of a lift on them at all. Not necessarily what I'm wanting for the Bahia grass that I need to lift up and cut, but perfect for those sandy situations. So let's change these out to some high lift that I already have, and let's put a good edge on the high lifts because they are used. So I have a special blade sharpener just for my mower blades, but since I already have my setup out here with an angle grinder, we're going to use that because I can put an edge on just as quick. So if you take a look at this blade, see that high lift back here? That's what does scooping action, kind of like a fan blade, is the way I always describe it. And it lifts grass up to give it a clean cut when the blade comes back around. These have a really good factory edge on them to have been mowed with a couple times, but no longer than it takes to put a good sharp edge on it. Let's do it. I did go ahead and go to my plug-in grinder because it's so much more powerful than that cheap battery one that I have, but same flat disc, that's what I prefer for mower blades as well. All right, you're literally talking, what, 10, 15 seconds of sharpening probably. And a very sharp blade right there. Perfect. Hit the other side. And then a lot of people have been asking why I don't check for balance. We'll do that. I'll show you the little tool that I do have to do that. All right, so this little device right here has a perfectly centered little peg. And then you put this piece on top and it can handle different angles, but it also lets you know if your blade is balanced or not. Even though my 2x4 is going downhill right here, I really should probably be doing this on a flat surface, it will automatically level itself. Got to make sure you get the grooves in there just right. It's also windy as can be. You're seeing the wind is actually affecting this, but whenever it settles out, like right there, looks very close to level. I'm trying to block this wind back here. You can see now it's blowing it up. So best to do this indoors. I personally find that you don't really need to balance blades as long as you try to take the same amount off either side and as long as you don't have any significant damage. If I wind up with chips or chunks or bad wear or damage on one side, absolutely go ahead and check them on level. But as long as you're consistently sharpening them, not seeing damage, they typically always stay balanced. What's up, buddy? All right, well, we better go ahead and get this out of the way. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned that, well, I've technically cheated on one of my most popular brands. So a lot of y'all know that I am diehard Stihl. Truly believe in their products, some of the best products made. And that's been true for every product of theirs that I've ever owned since I was a child, with the exception of one of their weed eaters. I have repaired it 3 times, and the other day when I caught it leaking oil and gas on the floor again, the carburetor needs to be redone for the 3rd time, I said I've had enough of it. So I started looking at Stihl battery-powered equipment. There's no denying a lot of stuff's going to battery-powered, and I kind of desire some stuff in battery now. I don't want to mix oil and gas and have to deal with things that really sit up for a long period of time, like a string trimmer. And as battery technology has increased, things have become more powerful, things run longer, it's a lot more appealing. So I went and looked at a Stihl homeowner version battery-powered unit. Very, very expensive, and looked relatively cheap built. It kind of shocked me, being that I'm such a huge fan of Stihl. Love their chainsaws and everything else, always have. So to go up into a pro model battery powered Stihl unit was about twice the cost of a Husqvarna. And you know, Stihl and Husqvarna is kind of like the Ford and Chevy debate. This is actually the first Husqvarna piece of equipment I've ever owned. I caught it on a crazy Amazon Prime sale. It's got more powerful battery, better features, bigger cutting swath, balanced perfect. I mean, I just love it. And $100-something less than the Stihl homeowner version that looked and felt cheap, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, I'm expecting a lot of our everyday viewers to give me a heck of a hard time. I went to the dark side, y'all. I went over to a Husqvarna piece of equipment, and I'm diehard Stihl. Now, I've already used this for a little bit. I love it. I absolutely love it. Easy load head, again, balanced perfectly, slightly forward just the way you want it. I don't fight with nothing back here. I mean, look at that, it's perfect in the hand. 40-volt battery, got a turbo mode that really blasts through some thick stuff. I'll show you all that. And it's got a really cool feature where you can reverse the head. You can cut either direction. So if I'm cutting up near some stuff, like say my AC unit and AC coil, and I want to throw this stuff back the other direction, hit the button, throw it the exact opposite direction. Windows, everything else. I thought that was a really cool feature. So yeah, I went to Husqvarna, who I always pick on, but let's face it, Husqvarna and Stihl both make quality stuff. I've always known that. So let's fire this up, finish doing a little weed eating, get the yard finished off because the sun is setting. All right, I think that's going to wrap that up. It's crazy to think another year is already slipping away, and this is potentially the last time that we're going to do this full yard cleanup for 2023. The older you get, the more you start really paying attention to that all precious time flying by. I cannot believe here we are approaching Christmas in 2024. Just absolutely crazy. But I always get excited about this time too. When we do the last big cleanup like this, that lets me know a bunch of cool nights ahead, fires, hanging out, hunting season, everything else that we look forward to, holidays, families get together, it's good food. The list just goes on and on. All right, thank y'all for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.